What is up, everybody? Happy Sunday night. Come on in. Throw your thumbs up. Do whatever you got to do. Again, good evening. Idaho4, the aftermath. I was waiting for the Bills game, the Kansas City game, to be over. They're still going at it. Let's take a look really quick at a score update. 29-29, 4:35 left in the fourth. So all of you Bills and Kansas City fans, woo! Again, welcome. The suppression hearing, Thursday, Friday. Now today is Sunday. We're going to talk a little bit about everything that's going on. Well, not everything, but in this live. But we're going to get started. It's going to take a couple lives to go through it. What is up, Johnny Lunch Bucket? Good to see you in here. I asked the question on my community page, and it was, regardless of whoever the defendant would be in this case, did the Moscow Police Department and any law enforcement agencies that were working on the case, did they run a lawful? Was it constitutional? Did they run it constitutionally clean? No violation of anybody's rights during their investigation. Well, the FBI, it's come out that the FBI used two different databases that are not law enforcement. They're not supposed to use these databases. They are opted out of the IGG. And for me, that's a huge red flag. Just because if you're willing to do that, what else are you willing to do? Basically, when I say you're willing to do that, if you're willing just to look the other way and not follow your own policies, it's not just with the IGG, guys. Okay, it's just not. And if anybody believes that, then I'm sorry. That's just, I think that you're a fool. And I have no problem saying that to anybody's face. Hello. So for me, they couldn't get anything when they did it the right way through the Ortham. ISP sent it there, and then here, let's hand it on over to the feds, and they're just going to do what they do. So back in the day, there was no such thing as IGG, and now we're going to have CAST coming up, and this is going to be another. I think this is going to be a case to show you that CAST is nowhere near as reliable as as people claimed it was, and I think that's going to come out in this case. But before IGG, there's other things that people could do to violate their policies, their procedures, our rights, and that was happening. So this isn't the first time that somebody was like, okay, I'm not going to follow protocol. So then you start getting into integrity issues, and if you're willing to do this, what aren't you not? Like, everything's on the table then for you to bend the rules with. That's my take. With that said, if we take a look at the board here, KC went up 32-29. Stellar. This is Chief Fry. Everybody knows him, Chief Fry. Chief Fry did all these pressers. I say all these pressers. He did 3. And then they had their own YouTube channel and they started putting stuff out. I want to remind everybody what how things were in the beginning. And it is my opinion, based on what I've seen on Thursday and Friday, that I have no idea how they're going to be able to prosecute this case and who they're going to plan on the state getting up on the stand and saying, okay, talk us through, your investigation. The two people that we heard from, Detective Mowry and Detective Payne is a lead investigator. He was the one that was calling the shots, telling people, what to do, where to go. They had what you would call a problem remembering. So the testimony that we heard on Thursday and Friday, that doesn't just leave us when the trial comes. if Detective Payne and Mallory were answering questions as I don't know and I don't remember, I don't recall. But then if you're having to recollect my memory, show me something. Okay, yeah, that sounds about right. So I think what the prosecution just got themselves into a big problem is who's going to be testifying to anything. I mean, do you know how hard it is to have a trial when people don't remember things? You want to know how slow a trial will take for us to continue to hand somebody something when they say something like, I don't recall, I don't remember, I don't know. What do you do? Well, who does know? Who has these answers? Because the questions that were asked of the witnesses this past Thursday and Friday, we didn't get to see a lot of Thursday, but they should have those answers. For example, the drone footage. If you're the lead investigator of this case and you fly to Pennsylvania and you then get out of a plane and you're being transported to, I'm guessing, a barracks over there, wherever the Pennsylvania State Police were all hanging out with some feds that were from Pennsylvania. When everybody's all there and decisions are starting to be made, I mean, Payne thinks that the tank just, kind of just rolled up in the driveway and, hey, we're here. Okay, well, and he's talking about he had a horrible feed to the drone footage. And then, okay, well, where is that drone footage? I don't know. How do you not know? Wouldn't you say something if you were a lead investigator? Wouldn't you say, hey, I need to get that drone footage. Who has it? Okay, they need to send it to my office. They need to send it. Here's my email. Like, you're in control. This is your case. This is the Moscow Police Department's case. Why would anybody be telling me what's going on? This is my fucking channel. None of my mods, friends, nobody tells me what's going on my channel, right? I'm running my channel. I know what's going on my channel. Okay. I call the shots. I decide what's going to go out. I decide what's not going to go out. I decide who I'm going to have on, who I'm not going to have on. I make the calls. Okay. So how do you not know where very, very important drone footage would be for this type of a case? That you were in Pennsylvania, and we're talking about the drone footage. This is the drone footage and feed that was on the house while the raid, before it, during it. Where is the footage? Now, if you're a judge, wouldn't you, what type of a judge isn't going to be like, yeah, no, nothing to see here. And we're trying to suppress something because there was a no-knock warrant, and then that day, then this got added on. And what? How can anybody make decisions if I'm supposed to be a referee of something? And so this past weekend, I just thought, and I'm like, I made it a big joke when I was like, Payne's always like, I don't even know. We don't even know that answer. You guys, it wasn't a joke. They do not know these answers. It's because they didn't do this investigation. They weren't really running the show, were they? Because if you're running the show, you know what's going on. I don't even know those answers. Chief Fry, making it famous. So anybody out there that thinks that this is that a Franks isn't going to happen, I guess my question to you is, do you know what the standard is? Do you know what all that Ann has to prove? We say it's a higher burden, but it's always usually a higher burden to be able to get a Franks. It's because people waltz into a suppression hearing like that and they have their shit together. Okay. They have the documentation to back up what they put into a 18 to 20 page affidavit. A Franks hearing usually doesn't happen because it's good men and women out there that actually are police officers, and they take their job very serious, and they don't lie. Okay, they do it the right way, and so that's why Frank's hearing is so hard to obtain, because people aren't fucking around. I mean, it is still unclear to me how anybody can take a car on WSU's campus and say that it's a car 20 minutes away on another campus and say that that white sedan is this white sedan that's over on that campus. How are you just saying that? Especially when the one is a 2011, 2013, and the other one is a 2014, 2016. Nowhere in this probable cause affidavit, when you actually read through it, and I think Hitler brought up some really good points to say, and Ashley Jennings literally just spun like a top. Like, and we're gonna show it, but how does your probable cause have the car going? Remember when we first talked about this and we said, wait a second. We did a Google Maps of all the time stamps. And we said, wait a second. At 2:42 a.m., the phone was utilizing cellular resources that provide coverage to 1630 Northeast, but it also provides coverage to a huge radius. It's not just the 1630. Okay? A big area would be under that scope of, yep, if I'm over here, I'm using the same cell tower as if I'm over there, a couple miles where my apartment is, but I'm over here, but I would still be consistent with being on the same cell tower, but I'm really not at my apartment. So, but when we tracked the car and we had the car going, and I'm like, wait a second, the car's seen here, and then it's in the literally the same spot they're saying 7, 8, 9 minutes later. I was like, this was back in the day when we were going through this. I'm like, what was this white sedan doing? Just like made like a big circle to come back. It didn't make any sense. And so Hippler says to Ashley Jennings, well, don't you think it's material if your PCA is saying that a car is going a certain way and it's not? And don't you think 7 minutes is a big deal? And her answer was like, yeah, but it's not like a car cannot turn around. Okay. So where in the PCA are you showing that? Where are you showing that you think that this car turned around then? Because don't you have cameras over there? Wouldn't it have shown this whole turnaround like you're saying? Like, to say like, well, you act like a car can't turn around. That could be true for any car that's on any camera then. So I personally believe that Ashley Jennings, like, literally walked the whole crew into a Franks hearing. Also, I don't know if Ashley Jennings was listening when her detectives kept saying, I don't know, I don't remember, and that wasn't something that I did, or like those type of answers, because we got those first, and then so would have Ashley Jennings, right? And so when she's going to oral argue, like she did at the end, and she's saying, we know, like the PCA says, and Magistrate Megan Marshall knew, just because this person's signing the affidavit, that doesn't mean that they did the work. And I'm like, okay, Ashley, keep talking. And she's like, we know who did the work. And I'm like, wait, what? No, actually, your guys don't know who did the work. Mowry has no idea. Payne has no idea. But Ashley Jennings is saying that it says it right here. You know, it says it that Payne talked with the SA, with the cast, and that's who he consulted with. I said, yeah, but you want to know what else they said, Ashley, here? Based on my training and experience, and conversations with law enforcement officers that specialize in the utilization of cellular telephone records as part of investigations, individuals can either leave their cellular phone at a different location before committing a crime or turn their cellular telephone off prior to going to a location to commit a crime. I also know that on numerous occasions, subjects will survey an area where they intend to commit a crime prior to the date of the crime. I applied for and was granted a search warrant for historical records. I received the records. These records indicated that the 845, Payne was saying that he never even looked at the records, that when he got them, he just sent them on over to the feds. Payne also was saying, after consulting with, this is the big one right here on page 5. After consulting with, or I'm sorry, rather, it would be on a page of 13. After receiving this information, I consulted with an FBI special agent. Then it says, after that whole big paragraph, it says, I was able to determine estimated locations. And so when we were listening to that, Payne says, I was able to get the estimate locations. And so what we didn't get to see, because remember, it was sealed off, these are the questions that were asked of these two people earlier on that Thursday when we're all just hanging out. And so then to go back and have Ashley Jennings oral argue later on that same day, Payne is saying, I was able to determine estimated locations for the 8458 phone. In that hearing, he said that he didn't do anything like that. He didn't do any of it. He doesn't even know how to read it. In fact, Payne has never filled out a search warrant for an AT&T warrant. Now, that was something new that I had never thought a million thousand years would come out of anybody's mouth. But your lead investigator had never, in a quadruple homicide, he had never wrote a search warrant for AT&T phone records. Now, I have a new song for Ashley Jennings and Bill Thompson. And And I do believe that the video was going to go viral. So I'm going to have you guys be on the lookout. Be on the lookout for Walk This Way, Talk This Way. Okay. I'm doing a rendition of Aerosmith's Walk This Way. So Ashley Jennings, be on the lookout, Bolo. You know, walk this way, and then we're just going to have Ashley Jennings just speaking to us, you know. These two, literally these two. Another interesting part, we're going to get all into the very interesting, you know, you guys, Dylan, Bethany, the Dylans and the Bethanies out there. There would have been lines of questioning, because trust me, it happened. When it's on page 5, and so it says it in the PCA, it says the combination of DM statements to law enforcement, reviews of forensic downloads of records from BF and DM's phone, and video of a suspect video as described below leads investigators to believe the homicides occurred between 4 and 4:25. Okay. Hippler asks, why was it important, or what was the relevance of putting in the PCA anything and everything about Dylan in her identification of the suspect? And Ashley Jennings said, well, it goes to identification purposes. And then Hippler said, and the timeline? I have repeated like a broken record on this channel that Dylan Mortenson's statements, when you want to talk about a scale, it is like this. Okay. Like when you want to talk about relevant, like, oh, the ID, no, it's the timeline. Dylan is critical for the timeline, the time of the crime. Okay. So that they can say that happened at this particular time, because that's how they rope it in with the car. So I'm still curious on how Dylan knew it was a man versus a woman if they had a face covering on. I'm still curious on how you can call this an ID when they're all covered up. How can anybody positively identify anybody? And wouldn't it be Dylan's, if she's the one that said this person had bushy eyebrows, wouldn't it be Dylan being shown pictures, and it should be her perspective of what bushy eyebrows are, not what Officer Payne's definition of bushy eyebrows would be? Because who made the identification? Because the way that it's worded in here, it's Payne made the identification. Payne says that, you know, when he got Brian's ID, he determined that Brian had bushy eyebrows, not Dylan Mortensen. Also, Dylan gave 4 to 5 to 6. She was interviewed a bunch of different times. What police are not supposed to do is, if somebody is not credible with their statements, if they're all over the place with them, or if they're flat out saying, I don't know, I like she was allegedly saying, I don't know if I was dreaming, I don't know this, I don't know that, I was drunk. Okay. Absolutely, Holly, how close do you have to be to see somebody's eyebrows? Well, you'd have to be face to face with them. So anybody out there that's saying that Dylan just saw the person walk past and go towards the door to the slider, then how'd she get the good whiff of the eyebrows? You know what I mean? Like, I don't even fuck with those type of people. I'm like, okay, sure. Yeah, no. Now I'm going to give you guys an example. I used this earlier and I used it last week. There's been so many times that something's happened and I'm in the middle of dealing with something that is taking place. Okay. And then 30 minutes, 45 minutes, like I'm still dealing with whatever. And then I would text somebody and say, you're never going to believe what just fucking happened to me. 45 minutes later, I say the words, you're never fucking going to believe what the fuck just happened to me. Now, based on that type of a text message, you could say, see, she said right here, look at what the fuck just happened. Like it had to happen like right then and there. Well, no, I just got in a fucking car accident and then some lady just came up screaming like a lunatic. Like I had to deal with this bitch, crazy person. Okay. Then she just drives off like whatever. I'm dealing with all this. I call the cop. Blah, blah. And then so the person I text and I say, hey, you're never going to believe what just fucking happened to me. So I am so curious to see the con. I want to see exactly these text messages that are out there and how, when the cops want to say based on, DM, or I should say the cops, fuck the cops and say that Ashley Jennings is way more of a witness when you want to talk about calling somebody to the stand to tell the story. Payne and Mallory didn't remember anything, but Ashley Jennings, like, we know what time the crime was because what's her name? Dylan is saying in her texts when she's texting what's going on, what's happening. What? So you like, don't you want to know what those text messages could possibly? Hey guys, my fucking roommates are getting stabbed to death and I'm just chilling over here. What? It's I thought that wait, that's right, in the PCA. So Ashley Jennings just literally outs the fact that Dylan Mortensen wasn't in a frozen shock state, right? By Ashley Jennings saying that Dylan Mortensen was texting and giving basically play-by-plays. And so then isn't that even more of a reason that, wait, but Payne put in here that she was frozen. She was frozen. Based on my training and experience. That just blows me to bits when these guys are going to get up on the stand and talk about their training and experience, which is none. Remember I told you guys, I said, if Dylan would have been standing where she would have been standing, she'd be a dead woman right now. Well, that's true. Where did Ashley Jennings say anything about getting up and out of bed on 3 different occasions? Did that come up? Because not in Ashley Jennings' examples, nor did Ann Taylor's examples. Show you guys another picture here. I was like, who really is Ashley Jennings? Look at these 2 flops in the back. He looks like the guy that was on trial. I don't know. You guys probably know what I'm talking about. That little money man guy. Here we go. Ashley Jennings. Don't mess with her, man. She means business around these parts. Let's stay right here. We're going to switch on over to this little She thought she heard, remember Kaylee playing with the dog? And now the dog continued to bark straight for 25 to 30 minutes after that white car left, right? Well, I started thinking about this, and when do dogs bark? Why do dogs bark? When there's like strangers, right? Or when you're, I don't know, when you want to go outside and you're inside, or when you're outside and you want to go inside, right? When do dogs bark? And so it got me thinking about this whole dog barking. Okay. And Ashley Jennings is just like, who cares if the dog's barking, for 25 to 30 minutes and we didn't put it in there? No, Ashley, what these people did, and I don't know why Ashley's speaking for what these people wrote in there, but what it sounded like to me was that the dog was barking and then stopped once the person left, right? And if you would have known that the dog continued to bark for 25 minutes to 30 minutes after the white car is out of the area, well, first of all, I would want to know how this camera was able to pick up a dog barking for 25 to 30 minutes straight, right? If the dog's in fact in somebody's house, right? You're going to sit here and tell me that my Ring camera is going to pick up my neighbor's dog barking. Like, how close are we? Like, and then like, versus like if a dog was, do we hear any doors open and close? Was Murphy put into the Range Rover and left in the Range Rover? Because we're going to come to this question, which is, how does the dog, okay, not have any blood on it, on the paws? Wouldn't the dog continue to bark past 25 or 30 minutes if the dog was in fact in the house trying to like get those other people to wake up, like these roommates? So I thought to myself, I said, well, shit. Is there a chance that the dog was actually put in the Range Rover? Remember, it was Christy's mom, Kaylee's mom, that said that the crate that Murphy stayed in was actually still in the Range Rover. Is that true? Because if that's true, that's interesting. Was the dog outside back, like on like a, some type of rope leash? I'm just saying, why is the dog barking for 25 to 30 minutes after, but then just stops? If the dog was in fact in that house and their owner was accessible and dead and stabbed, why would the dog just stop barking? I would think that the dog would be barking like a crazy lunatic. And then now we know why Steve Gonsalves has come out and said, well, Murphy's not a barker. Murphy's not a barker. I don't care if your dog's a barker or not a barker. 4 stabbed, bloody people in that house. Yeah. Who determined that there was no evidence on the dog? And then wouldn't that be a big, like, I don't know, like where was this dog the whole time? And then here's their answer. Well, we used the body cam, and one of the body cams showed that the dog was in one of the rooms where there was no, you know, struggle and no blood. You think unless that door was shut and that dog could not get out, but that's not what was said. What was said on Thursday and Friday from my ears were that all of the doors were opened. Now, granted, I was also told by a couple different birdies that we're going to have some. Okay. If I called you over to come help me out and you come over and we see blood everywhere, or you see that people have been attacked and whatever, and if you were to go hunting around the house to like look for like either other people or to make sure the house, like nobody's still in there so that you're safe, are you going to go around the house like without a weapon? Because I know like that I wouldn't. I would hope that none of you guys would be going around the house without a weapon after you've come across 2 stabbed bodies. So what if people were picking up knives that were summoned over that house and went around looking to see if anybody was in the house, if like the killer was still there? So you're going to sit here and tell me that, holy shit, Lana, we have possibly students that picked up knives to arm themselves and then what, laid them back down like in different parts of the rooms? Like, oh my God, okay, we're fine. Like, oh my God, the cops are finally here. Okay, I can put down my knife. Oh, where'd you get that from? I grabbed it from the kitchen. Okay, so then I would love to know how Dylan originally went to bed in her, she originally went to sleep in her bedroom. Well, I have a feeling that Bethany testified that Dylan had always slept down there, and that's the exculpatory part. Bethany saying, well, I don't know how Dylan saw anything because she was downstairs with me, and slept down there. Unless Dylan's saying, well, yeah, I went down there later because after all of this, then I just went downstairs, but I guess I never told Bethany about what I fucking heard up there. Like, what? Does think about if you were living with people that you're like fucking homies with. Like, none of this makes any sense. And then we get to the most explosive part, which is, holy shit, there's blood on the railing that is of male. So somebody cut themselves, and it's not Brian Koberger that cut themselves, and it's on the railing. And none of these fucking people in Moscow or the parents think that this is like, holy shit. Like, remember I said, I was like, you want to get everybody. If it was my kid, I don't want just Brian if he did it. Like, so I just found out today for the first time from a parent that there was blood from a male that's on the railing. That means somebody cut themselves. And that somebody is not Brian Koberger. That means somebody else had a knife. Or it could potentially be that somebody else was injured, and they were able to get away. And what, this person got the fuck out of Dodge and has never said another word. Then there's also another unknown male profile that's on a glove that's right outside the house that allegedly has blood on it. Wait, and that's different person? Yeah. Wait, what? So now that would be, if you count Brian, and not one, but now there's 3 perpetrators. And here the families are just like, what the like, nobody gives a fuck about these other fucking DNA not touched samples of blood. I mean, blood. We're talking about people weren't just shot here, they were stabbed. Okay, the blood. And so these 2 unknown male DNA profiles that are there are blood, and it's not the same person. So it's 2 different people, male, and then you add in Brian, and that's 3, of which Brian's is not blood because he went in there with a kill kit, man. And he was all just fucking all blacked out and protective gear. Right. But these 2 people, but these 2 people that nobody knows who they are, and the police don't care, because they didn't even want to. They knew on December 17th that they existed. And now the judge is like, well, it looks like Brian had accomplices. Or it looks like he was framed. Okay, it's one or the other, right? And so you're going to sit here and tell me that Brian hasn't coughed up his accomplices yet? I'd be pretty pissed if I was a parent. But it seems like nobody's pissed off at all. Everyone's just like, fry fucking Brian Kohberger. But I mean, we're not talking about mixtures, samples that are mixtures. We're talking about single source DNA on the railing, blood. Wow. On a glove outside, blood. Wow. What? All right, just woo. And it's not the glove that Chris McDonough found, for the record, again. It's ridiculous. And so tell me how there aren't multiple people involved in this, and tell me how certain we are that Bethany and Dylan, I don't want to say the words like involved, because no. How certain are we that they spent the night there? Like, how are they alive, motherfuckers? I'm going to show you guys this little clip I have ready for us.
So is there any explanation as to why it took so long then for someone to call 911? You have surviving witnesses to an incident at 3 or 4 in the morning, and the 911 call didn't come until noon?
I don't think I ever said that they were witnesses. I said they were there. So, you know, we don't know why that call came in at noon and not in the middle of the night. Would have we loved for that to have happened? Yes, but that's not how it took place. So that's why we're investigating everything still, to try to pull all the pieces together.
Were they one of the people, were they the 911 caller?
At this point in time, I'm not going to divulge who our 911 caller is, just because I want to keep the integrity of the investigation at this point. Okay.
Okay. And last question.
The integrity of the investigation.
Are you able to tell whether the same weapon was used on all 4 victims?
There it is.
That's why we're having the autopsies done. The autopsy will confirm that and hopefully collect some evidence for us, even from those. That's why you do the autopsies, is to try to be thorough and try to gather more. So we'll leave that would probably be something that would come out later.
Okay.
Excuse me, Derek Shug, Fox News Digital. Was there anything missing in the home, or were the purses still there? Any robbery attempt? Anything?
Look at the woman behind him when he asks this question.
Excuse me, Derek Shug, Fox News Digital. Was there anything missing in the home, or were the purses still there? Any robbery?
Just had to show that. That would have been me. I would have probably been like, motherfucker, give me that microphone. Shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up. Get her.
Robbery attempt, anything like that?
Nothing that we have identified. And I'm going to take about 2 more questions. All right.
Hi, I'm Tim with the Daily Evergreen. I was just wondering, were the 2 other individuals present at the home when police responded at noon?
Yes.
Okay.
Chief, if you don't mind elaborating a bit more on those 2 people. Was it 2 people? What have those people shared about the circumstances of that night, what they saw or didn't see?
Well, I'm not going to go into what they shared that night. Obviously, that's part of our investigation. That's part of the information that we're trying to build our complete story with. So at that, as far as that goes, we're not going to go any further into what they know and what they don't know.
How many were there?
We believe 2.
Chief, have you looked into the
We believe 2.
social media accounts of all the different victims? And do you, we understand that one may have had an account linked to her Instagram account. Have you looked into those accounts? Have you seen any sort of threats made to any of the individuals?
So we are looking at all resources. We got, like I said, the Federal Bureau of Investigation helping us. We got our detectives, our forensic detectives looking into that. We're trying to pull this whole picture. We're looking at everything that we can look at, social media, etc. So to answer your question, yes, we are.
Were the victims all found in one part of the house?
I'm not going to divulge that either. That's part of our investigation. And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and close this off. But if you'd like to, if you have any questions for the university, we'll open that up at this point in time.
Targeted incident, and there is an individual somewhere. Can you give us a reason as to why there's that belief there is a suspect? And can you also give a little more information on the forced entry? There's no sign of forced entry, but was the door, did it seem like any of the entries were left unlocked by any means?
I'll answer the last part there just because it's at the front end of my mind. We're not 100% sure if the door was unlocked, but there was no damage to anything, and the door was still open when we got there.
And my first question,
Yeah.
if you'd like me to read.
No, I think I haven't. In these cases, we take the totality of the things that we see, and they're very dynamic, right? And they're very big, and there's a lot of information, and we try to take that information, and some of it we can't share with you, correct? But we try to take that information, we try to make the best educated decision we can. We review that as a team with our detectives, along with our prosecutors, along with the university, and we try to make that best.
Along with the university. There it is. You guys, I don't know. I don't remember. And I can't recall. Unbelievable. Ashley Jennings knows more about this investigation on who was doing what than these detectives did. And if you don't believe me, here's Ashley Jennings on her saying that even if you take away this, even if you take away that, even if you do this, even if you do that, at the end of the day, the DNA matches. That's not even what we're talking about, Ashley. We're not talking about DNA matching anybody, girl. We're talking about a Franks. And Ann Taylor is explaining that in a Franks, you cannot lie in your probable cause affidavit. Okay. And your detectives don't even remember what they did. But to Ashley Jennings, 7 minutes doesn't mean shit. And if a car is going the wrong way, and then she says, well, it's still in Pullman. Like, well, if the car's in Pullman, then how is he in Moscow about to be committing your crime, chicky? I want to show you guys one last video. And I remember I said, how did Dylan know? How does Dylan know that the killer is a man, or like a woman based, like you can't see anything, right? And it's 5'8", okay? And so like how did like, she said white male, she didn't recognize his voice, so the killer was talking. The killer with the mask on was talking. Interesting. Like, okay, so the killer's talking.
Welcome to the Power of Lifting podcast. I'm Eric Cafferty, owner of the Mecca Gym. I am a strength and conditioning coach and a contest prep specialist. The focus of this
functions.
Perfect.
This
Let's
is my
hear it.
daughter. This is Peyton. She's the TikTok star. I go, Dad. All right, let's back it up.
I'm just
Uncle
so
Tom.
proud. Star to you. Is that all I
Yeah,
am to you?
that's. I'm like, Uncle Tom does not know what TikTok is. let's back it up. So there's a lot more to me than I would say what social media sees, but my thing is when I started posting about fitness, about my journey and whatever, I was just posting to document it for myself.
Right.
I wasn't necessarily posting to have a following.
Right.
That kind of just came with it,
Right.
which it's just crazy. It's kind of just blown up overnight.
Yeah. So tell us a little.
You guys, these girls decided to go from being rah-rah shish kebab to being like fucking full-blown bodybuilders. Everybody that was either living at that house at one point, okay, or neighbors of that house at one point, they all were like, let's get jacked.
A little bit about like the day-to-day, like what have you been doing for work?
And I'm just saying, like, somebody's body like that, in like being all chiseled and 5'8", according to a drunk girl. I mean, Brian is 6 foot, all right, and he would have had like 4 to 6 inches even taller because of that step up. Okay, so like this person would have been like, whoa, you know what I mean?
Work, what like
Yeah.
what are some of your crowning achievements? I
Okay.
guess?
So actually, I just
And then
soccer or
I mean,
basketball, or they had their thing
Right.
or whatever it was, and I was
these were all
When
like,
was it? Sorry, I could have missed it.
Mhm.
That you found the fitness and the bodybuilding. What age were you? Where were you?
So it's crazy. I actually haven't been lifting.
Like, oh my gosh, that's your dad. Like, I totally know that guy
Yeah.
from the gym like 20 years ago. No joke. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel extremely old.
this podcast was
I was
hilarious.
coaching this guy.
Outs like I
The PE
wasn't.
The
class?
PE classes. Did you
Yeah.
take lift?
Probably isn't in hindsight started doing it.
Yeah.
Then she
So if you want to see how jacked these girls are now, go check it out. I'm just saying, guy, girl, like how you're just, if somebody's in all black and only showing like as Ashley Jennings said, you could only see this much of them, emphasizing that. I want to give a shout out to, let's see, Ashley Jennings. We have a couple little clips here. Her absolute, like, let's see. I about fell over. I was laughing, whoever did. 32-29. It is final. The Chiefs are advancing, in case anybody doesn't know that. Let's see. Oh, yeah, here we go. We had a couple clips that came out. So we'll do the first one is, I laughed at this, so I want to share and give a shout out to the little clip here. Here you go.
I don't know that I completely wrap my head around the defendant's logic in this.
I have to, so help me out.
Well, I still don't
I
understand.
understand her statement and her argument. I'm trying to understand your response.
I guess what was reported was the information known at the time that the probable cause affidavit was given.
By
There's
Detective Payne? Or by the
the
cast
information
member?
that he was given from.
This goes to my first question about imputed erroneous statements. So I understand the allegation in that regard, not necessarily to be that Detective Payne knew the statement was wrong, because I'm not sure there's evidence of that. But did the cast specialist know that there was a misinterpretation or an erroneous report?
I don't think that you have before you a sufficient proffer that proves that the cast specialist submitted false information. Apparently, there's a difference in the handoffs of 7 minutes. At the end of the day, okay.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it's incredibly material.
Material, if you look at it in terms of where the phone was in that 7 minutes,
Well, it's material.
going a direction different than what your affidavit says it was going, isn't that material?
The direction of travel, like, yes, I would say it was if it was found outside of Pullman. It was not. What? It was reporting to a tower in Pullman. This assumption assumes that cars can't change direction of travel, assuming that then the same cell phone, which was then turned off, isn't then also tied to the evidence. Well, we do have information to believe a white sedan tied to Mr. Kovac was then found on surveillance. It's a lead for me. Does that answer?
Well, it's your answer. So.
What do you guys think? Okay. If you didn't think that one was good. So then I was like, I kind of like it. I thought that was a pretty good clip. Then I was like, oh, this one's pretty good too.
What was the relevance? Was the statements of DM that were included in the affidavit as to probable cause?
I cited those in my response throughout. She was
What were they?
okay.
Okay.
I can tell you generally, consistently, she gave the same set of facts.
I understand the things that she said. Why was it important the magistrate know those things? In other words, are they going to who the ID of the perpetrator is, going to establish a timeline of when the murders took place? So it's part ID as well?
I think that it goes to giving a general description of the person that she saw in the residence around the time that corroborates when we know these crimes occurred. Yes, a general description is material and relevant. And that general description, which is what was provided in the PC affidavit, was consistent throughout all.
Okay, somebody needs to tell her because I'm making these clips right now too. When she says what time we know that this happened, and then just clip after clip, I don't know, I don't remember, I don't know, I don't remember, one after another from Mallory and Payne. Really? Because Ashley Jennings, you're the only one that seems to know.
Of her interviews, she described seeing someone wearing all black, a mask with only a portion of their face showing invisible. This person was male, white.
He's a white man. My man is white. White is right, and I think it's great.
She heard a voice that was not something that she recognized. The person was a slim, skinny, lean build, and the person was taller than she is around 5'8". That's what's important. It was that general description. And that general description did not.
That general description? Is she some fucking psycho? That is not a description of anybody. So, you can see this much. She's dead serious, you guys. Like, dead ass thinks that this is like a positive identification. Oh, God damn.
Not change.
Look at this.
Male, white.
He's a white man. My man is white. White is right, and I think it's great.
She heard a voice that was not something that she recognized. The person was a slim, skinny, lean build, and the person was taller than she is around 5'8". That's what's important. It was that general description.
That's what's important. It was that general description. Hello? Fucking, we all going. We're just cuff. Just get cuffed right now. If you 5'8", talk like a man. Talk like a man.
And that general description did not change.
You guys, I cannot even believe she fucking had the audacity to say that shit in open court. I really, no fucking way would you ever find me saying that shit in open court and as an argument. Then here is another video. Let's see. Share this. Why didn't they hand Dylan like the picture and say, "Hey, are these like bushy? Like, can you pick out the bushy eyebrows that you saw?" I mean, what the fuck? So then here is Ashley interviewing Steve.
What do you make of this argument that his defense lawyers are putting forth in court right now?
I mean, it's a sign of desperation. That is her job. She has to do everything. She has to exhaust every avenue that she possibly has. So we don't take it personal. But today was probably a hard blow for her. She's probably gonna have a hard time sleeping tonight.
I sleep just fine.
What happened today in the courtroom was very, very strong for prosecution.
You guys, what day? What fucking trial is he watching?
What do you make of this argument that his defense lawyers are putting forth in court right now?
I mean, it's a sign of desperation. That is her job. She has to do everything. She has to exhaust every avenue that she possibly has. So we don't take it personal. But today was probably a hard blow for her. She's probably gonna have a hard time sleeping tonight.
I sleep just fine.
What happened today in the courtroom was very, very strong for prosecution.
I don't even know. I swear I don't think it was Ann Taylor's not sleeping. She hasn't slept since fucking Wednesday. I have no idea. I don't even know what to say about that. Desperation. I think that I'd be like, who the fuck do these other blood samples belong to, you fucking bastards? Like, you had a hand in killing my kid. I'd want Ann Taylor to do everything possible to get me those other names. I'm hoping that Ann does a really good job so that I can find out who the fuck else was involved. That's what I'd be thinking. That's just whoa. Lana, do we know for sure IgG wasn't done on the other male DNA, and why wouldn't it have been done? They said that they didn't do any workups with that. The lab, Idaho State Police lab, forensics lab had gotten back the results on December 17th that there were a couple other male unknown profiles and nothing was done with them. Remember, we didn't get to see all day, basically Thursday. I'm just like, wow. Wow. Kay Miller, member for 17 months. Appreciate all of your hard work, Lana and team. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, Kay Miller. Moon Val, thank you so much. Oh, gifted 5. Who's sagging up memberships over there? Sherry D. Who you turning green, girl? Sherry D. By the way, tomorrow morning, guys, I will be covering the Karen Reed case in the morning, going over that new document that was, again, just the most fuckerage around. Between this case, Delphi, and Karen Reed. So I got Karen Reed, Idaho4, and Delphi. Shit. Crazy. Well, these samples were known to the police that they put them through CODIS. They didn't match anybody in CODIS. And they didn't match the sheath. So the state knew this December 17th and didn't give a fuck that there was blood on the railing that didn't belong there. Unbelievable. I would think, especially knowing that they were stabbed, the blood on the railing would matter. Somebody cut themselves, and it wasn't Brian. So there's a hearing on Wednesday for that case. So I don't even know what to say, you guys. It's bad. I think that Ashley Jennings walked herself into a Frank's. The I don't knows walked themselves into a Frank's. What else?
In the very first interview, and that just didn't happen. It just couldn't have happened, and that was not told. In fact, that statement was brushed over and withheld from the magistrate. About the memory issues in the second interview the same day, there are 2 references to not remembering. A couple of days later, there's the third interview, and there's references to not remembering, being drunk, a statement, I don't know any of it. Like half this stuff, I don't know if it's a dream or if it's real. That's at page 399. At page 406, I don't know if this was real or in my mind was just like playing with me. But from what I think I heard, someone was crying in the bathroom. These are definite statements that were not given to the magistrate and in fact were brushed over. And credibility is really, really important when that person is relied on in the investigation.
So again, this is what Ann Taylor was speaking about. And so
the issue was whether or not one of the victims ran downstairs, and she didn't say it once. She said it 4 times. in a row in the very first interview. And that just didn't happen. It just couldn't have happened. And that was not told. In fact, that statement was brushed over and withheld from the magistrate. About the memory issues in the second interview the same day, there are 2 references to not remembering. A couple of days later, there's the third interview, and there's references to not remembering, being drunk, a statement, I don't know any of it. Like half this stuff. I don't know if it's a dream or if it's real. That's at page 399. At page 406, I don't know if this was real or in my mind was just like playing with me. But from what I think I heard, someone was crying in the bathroom. These are definite statements that were not given to the magistrate and in fact were brushed over. And credibility is really, really important.
Here's another one.
Chance to ask that. She wasn't given a chance to ask that when she wasn't told about unknown male B, blood on the handrail. She wasn't given a chance to ask about that when she wasn't told about unknown male D, blood on a glove right outside the residence. She wasn't given a chance to ask any of those questions. The magistrate didn't get to know that.
In fact, his DNA is still on the knife sheath, though. That's the problem, counsel, for probable cause purposes.
You didn't know whose DNA
If
it
that's
was,
the
though.
only thing she's told, I can see why she'd find probable cause. It's these other things that are withheld that create a context around it.
Once you have a direct DNA tie to the defendant for purposes of probable cause, this isn't for purposes of conviction, for purposes of probable cause, a reasonable magistrate, let alone any magistrate, wouldn't find probable cause there, even if they knew all those other facts. As to Mr. Koberger, now, there may be, as you say, other people that creates concern or issues about that need to be investigated further. But I'm not sure that that diminishes the probable cause as to Mr. Koberger if his DNA is found on a knife sheath found on or near the victim who was stabbed with said alleged knife that would have been in said alleged sheath.
I think the most prominent question is, how did that sheath get there? I think when you ask that question, I think you can have DNA on an object at a scene when you know about all of these other things and you don't find probable cause, because there are more questions than there are answers. And all of a sudden, this one thing doesn't look as big. It doesn't look as everything pointing to it when you have the context around it. One of the witnesses saying things that absolutely couldn't be true. The witness who said these things that couldn't be true also admitted she didn't really know anything. You can't rely on that anymore, so you take that out. You know the identification to this sheath that maybe seems like it would be really good. You don't really even know how that happened, and you don't know how it got there. This isn't like DNA in blood on the wall from Mr. Koberger. That's not there. That doesn't exist in this scene. You're talking about an item that the question of how should be, especially when you know about the other male DNA in the house, and especially when you know about the lack of DNA connections.
Damn. People say this didn't make a good argument. I think that you're a fool, because the argument's there. She's basically saying it without saying it. Who the fuck
What other
put the sheet
explanation
there?
is there? The magistrate wasn't given a chance to ask that. She wasn't given a chance to ask that when she wasn't told about unknown male B, blood on the handrail. She wasn't given a chance to ask about that when she wasn't told about unknown male D, blood on a glove right outside the residence. She wasn't given a chance to ask any of those questions. The magistrate didn't get to know that.
In fact, his DNA is still on the knife sheath, though. That's the problem, counsel, for probable cause purposes.
If that's the only thing she's told, I can see why she'd find probable cause. It's these other things that are withheld that create a context around it.
Once you have a direct DNA tie to the defendant for purposes of probable cause, this isn't for purposes of conviction, for purposes of probable cause, a reasonable magistrate, let alone any magistrate, wouldn't find probable cause there, even if they knew all those other facts. As to Mr. Koberger, now, there may be, as you say, other people that creates concern or issues about that need to be investigated further. But I'm not sure that that diminishes the probable cause as to Mr. Koberger if his DNA is found on a knife sheath found on or near the victim who was stabbed with said alleged knife that would have been in said alleged sheath.
I think the most prominent question is, how did that sheath get there? I think when you ask that question, I think you can have DNA on an object at a scene when you know about all of these other things and you don't find probable cause, because there are more questions than there are answers. And all of a sudden, this one thing doesn't look as big. It doesn't look as everything pointing to it when you have the context around it. One of the witnesses saying things that absolutely couldn't be true. The witness who said these things that couldn't be true also admitted she didn't really know anything. You can't rely on that anymore, so you take that out. You know the identification to this sheath that maybe seems like it would be really good. You don't really even know how that happened, and you don't know how it got there. This isn't like DNA in blood on the wall from Mr. Koberger. That's not there. That doesn't exist in this scene. You're talking about an item that the question of how should be, especially when you know about the other male DNA in the house, and especially when you know about the lack of DNA connections.
Thoughts. I mean, I think we know where defense counsel is headed, right? Let's see what else. Okay, let's see. Let's see what this says.
We differ on a few factual issues. I believe there are 3 towers that provide service to the Moscow area. Defendant is.
Here's my concern with you telling me that at this stage of things. Where in the record is that currently? Apart from anything you may have submitted after they filed their Frank's motion.
What specifically?
That there are 3 towers.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
I believe I referenced it in my response.
Yeah, but that doesn't, if you give me evidence and I rely on that evidence, then I have to give them a full Frank's hearing. And
no, don't like that.
So that's why I've been very clear to say I'm looking at what the proffer is from the defense without evidence submitted by the state to determine whether they have met their threshold burden. And so I get concerned when you start telling me things that are not necessarily part of the evidence.
Understood. We can move past the number of towers.
Can we? Thoughts.
If you give me evidence and I rely on that evidence, then I have to give them a full Frank's hearing.
Thoughts. I wonder how they're sleeping at night. I mean, I'm blown over that comment. How they're sleeping at night. What are you talking about? Your prosecutor acts like a 3-year-old. Can we just kind of move past that tower talk, please? Let's see. I think this is a good one. Let's see this one.
At gmail.com and username spelled a bit different at gmail.com.
Did you know that the email in the warrant is actually Brian Christopher 1994 at gmail.com?
Oh, that sounds familiar. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so on that description, is that a mistake?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you do anything to, I asked you this, but you didn't do anything to verify that the data that you received from Google fit what was requested in the warrant?
No, ma'am, not to my recollection.
No, ma'am, not to my. What do you mean? That you're just. What were you doing? I don't even know what these people were doing. What were they doing all day?
Zip files for all digital records for the Google accounts of Brian Christopher at gmail.com and username spelled a bit different at gmail.com.
Did you know that the email in the warrant is actually Brian Christopher 1994 at gmail.com?
So he
that sounds familiar. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so on that description, is that a mistake?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you do anything to?
You guys, if you're putting a wrong description of the email, then whose email material are you getting back? I don't understand. How can you have, get out. Let's see this one.
We heard things and saw things within her house. But what is written in the probable cause affidavit is seriously lacking in detail. It's wrong and it's false in many places. The way the affidavit reads, it says this person stated she went to sleep on the 2nd floor. She was awoken at 4 by what she stated sounded like one of the victims playing with the dog, which was on the 3rd floor. A short time later, she thought she heard one of the victims say something. That caveat she thought she heard is a problem. That's not at all what was said. This person was interviewed shortly after 911 was called in the afternoon of November 13th, 2022. And she was sure, page 281 lines 4 through 10, when this witness was sure that she heard this particular victim go up the stairs and then come running back down the stairs. That is not what's contained in this affidavit at all. That is repeated during this same interview a couple of different times at page 287. It's also repeated in a subsequent interview that same day. This is defendant's exhibit 8B at page 313 and again at 320. It's repeated again in B8C as well. That is important because that's misleading to the judge. That waters down what was said. And that matters in the probable cause affidavit because the officers, when they wrote this, knew that wasn't the case. They knew this particular person that DM said was upright and running down the stairs, that's not what happened. That person was killed in the bed and never left the bed. And so the officers water that down because they know that fact is wrong, but they don't tell the magistrate that. They also
Okay, so check this out. Back in the beginning, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of inside info. Back in the beginning, it was very, let's see. I had gotten a phone call. I had gotten a couple phone calls. And it was when Maddie and Kaylee came home that obviously anybody that has a dog knows that you have to take your dog outside. And so what was said was that when they went outside to supposedly either let the dog out to go to the bathroom, or when they were out back doing whatever, that Kaylee saw a masked man like back in like the tree area. Okay. So something that was interesting when Ann Taylor was speaking about this to me when I was, remembering everything, I was just like, that's interesting actually. So if in fact Kaylee came inside and was like, oh my God. So she runs upstairs to tell Maddie, okay, about, oh my God, do you see like there's a masked man out there, because they all play fucking jokes on each other. They always do this shit. And so if she had said to Dylan or, just anybody and everybody, when she's like, oh my God, you guys got to come see this, or this mask, there's a man in a mask, blah, blah, blah. And so so if Kaylee runs upstairs, then runs back downstairs to then like take a peek and take a look like outside, or whoever she was going upstairs to get, maybe bring downstairs. But so I was thinking about that. Also, I'm thinking about if Kaylee and Maddie came home and they actually came downstairs in the front door, so they would have to go like upstairs, right? Like if you're coming right in, like who would ever just walk around the back to go into the slider? If you're going to come home and you get a party driver drops you off, you're walking in your front door. And so if Dylan was like on the first floor and she's like, I don't know, Kaylee like ran upstairs and ran back downstairs, like when are we talking about here? Like was Dylan on the first floor? Was Dylan on the second floor? Anyway, you slice and dice it. This came out way early on from a very, very good source that more or less got the information from the neighbors. The neighbors were the ones that had repeated this story and said, because you have to remember, people are always hanging out over there at that house, and people will just come and go at all different times. But it was relayed not by somebody that was dead, obviously, but somebody that was alive is talking about a masked man and seeing this masked man. And that Kaylee and Maddie had seen them. Okay. And so, and it was about when they had gotten home and that the masked man was out back behind the house in the freaking like wooded area. And you guys, this would have been way before. Okay, they get home at 1:56 a.m. We're talking about seeing this person at around 2 a.m. Or if they go outside to take the dog out and then that happens. But we're talking about this being said by Kaylee and or Maddie. And so if Dylan's actually repeating like that part of it, because that's what she remembers, that she's actually talking about the masked man that Kaylee or Maddie saw. And I just can't wait to get our hands on the actual reports / tape recordings, body. I mean, if they eventually release the body cams of the interviews, but the time of the crime is everything in this case, because for whatever reason, MPD was like, we have to have it be between 4 and 4:25. And it's like, why? Like, if you truly think about it, why would it have to be between then and then? Well, because that's when the white car that they say is doing whatever it's doing, right? But who is saying that the killer is even in the white car? Like, you can't, and that's why Dylan's stuff was so important to put a tag on the whole, oh, she woke up at 4 to the sounds of what she thought was this. Dylan doesn't know when the fuck she woke up. Dylan doesn't know shit, clearly. And Dylan's going to testify to that. Dylan's going to say, yeah, I don't know. They kept on asking me all these questions and I didn't know. I don't remember. I didn't remember. I have memory issues. I had a lot of shit go on when I was younger. You know what I mean? When all that stuff starts coming out, holy shit. But to hear these, who interviewed Dylan? Who are the people that are going to be taking the stand? And that's why Ann Taylor's like, these are very critical people that we're talking about. And we want their training records because they interviewed key witnesses in this investigation. And they were talking about how they know how they've been trained to handle trauma people. And that's the person that interviewed Dylan. That's what she's talking about. And it was somebody from the Idaho State Police. And I'm like, what the fuck was Payne doing? Okay. No wonder he doesn't know any answers, because what the hell did he do? You know? So I just want to throw that out there in the world of anybody that's listening in Idaho. Could Dylan be talking about this whole masked man? Because that came from a very reliable person in the inner circles of very reliable, where information was coming from. And no, I'm not talking about WSU Chem. That's not who I'm talking about. Somebody who, they know who they are out there. But it was 100% that Kaylee and Maddie, when they had gotten home, that they were talking about it, so much so that the neighbor, the 1112 house, knows about it. So, and according to the Chapins, 2:00 was a very dark hour for the family. For whatever reason, it's going to come out in trial. It's very, very important that Moscow Police Department labeled the time of the crime between 4 and 4:25. And for people not to think that the killer could have been on foot and then like ran to their car, like that was like, you know, X amount of streets down or whatever. I mean, or you got some frat houses right across the street. I just think it's really interesting that this person that you're determined, you think it's just one person versus there's a bunch of unknowns, blood, and that they all just hopped in that fucking white car. Now that's even crazier to think that there would be no DNA or signs of a cleanup in Brian Kohlberger's car if then people are all piling in there because it was multiple people. I mean, just absurd that nobody wants to go track down these DNAs and to see who they belong to. Because I think it's really important. If I was a parent, I'd want every single person involved to go down, you know. So I think it's kind of weird that nobody's pushing and no one's talking about there's blood. Okay, they'd be like, think about the Delphi case. And if you had someone's blood there that wasn't Abby's, that wasn't Libby's, and that wasn't Richard Allen's, these weren't mixtures either. So think about someone's blood being there, an unknown male blood, and someone being like, oh, it's, it's Richard Allen. We don't even care whose blood that is. That's like, what? Like, that's crazy. That's just absolute craziness to me. Like, how did somebody else's blood get there on a glove right outside, and then on the railing, the motherfucking railing to go up and down the stairs? Come on, people. That's somebody who cut themselves. Okay? This is absurd. And anybody that thinks that went well for the prosecution is absolutely delusional. Abso-fucking-lutely delusional. And I have no problem saying it. Delusional. Delulu University. If you think that looked good for the prosecution when your lead investigator and your lead forensic investigator know nothing. They're either liars or they're fucking stupid. And I don't know what's worse. And quite frankly, they're probably both, but mark them down. Delulu University. There you go. That's for you, Annie Potts. You guys rock. Much love. Over and out. We'll see you on the flip side. We got more coming. We got more coming. But much loved, everybody. On your way out, slap the thumbs up or thumbs down. You have an opinion, make it known. Thank you for the super stickers, super chatters. William, a member for 17 months. Look out, Willie, baby. Mr. William, we appreciate you. All right, until next time, peace out, Girl Scouts. What is up, Ange DB? I see you guys in chat. Who else? Oh, there she is, H-Bag. Sarah. Again, much love. I'm trying to look it back through chat. Truth Seeker, what's good, Colleen? Deb. All my Debs. Mark B, much love. SJSU Philosopher. Murky, all the mods. Thank you. 10-4.